Hey guys, welcome back or to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Amanda. I am an exotic animal caretaker and I would really appreciate it if you would give my video a like and subscribe before we get started. I have a pretty angry guest with me today, and we are going to be working on taming her down throughout the video. A little bit of extra excitement while I tell you about my life story. People ask me all the time how I got where I was, and what steps I took, and what do I suggest. I did some things that I now look back on and I think I did really well, and I did some things that I definitely see as a mistake but that I have learned from. And if you follow me, you'll know that I don't see mistakes as a problem, I only see it a problem if you don't correct them. Finally, before we get started, I just want to mention that I know I haven't posted in a little while, I haven't been feeling the greatest, but I'm hoping to resume posting as normal. So if you guys have any ideas or anything you want to see, make sure you leave them in the comments below. My family didn't really have a lot of pets, and they certainly did not have reptiles. I did not grow up around reptiles, and I actually didn't even grow up watching reptile TV or reptile YouTube or really anything. You're okay. It was like an inner pull, an inner desire, and I didn't always know that it was reptiles in specific. It was all animals. And I mean, it still is. I went to every single farm that would have me, I did all the riding that I possibly was allowed to do, and learned about every species on the farm. I went to shows, I went to zoos, I went to pet stores, I'd look into rescues or rehabs, I'd ask keepers, I'd look online. Facebook groups is a wonderful way to find keepers who are close to you. And a lot of them are willing to mentor you as well. Where I live, we have something called Kijiji, and it's super useful because people sell species that they're interested in, or they'll breed something, they'll post them up there, and I would honestly just message them and ask them for more information. I went to the Humane Society, I learned about dogs and cats that way. I would travel, and I'd make sure that I worked with wildlife when I was away. For example, my mom and I did a project in Costa Rica, working with rehabbing wildlife. I got to be hands-on with animals that I never thought I'd get to in my lifetime. Not only did I get to be so close up and hands-on with a variety of animals and so many species, but I was constantly learning. And then one day, as soon as I knew I was ready, when I researched everything to the maximum capacity at that point, I went to my nearest pet store and I got my first snake. I listened to everything that they told me to do. I wanted the snake to do super well. I wanted it to be very healthy. Did I make mistakes along the way? Absolutely. But I was constantly adapting and learning how to correct them. And throughout the years, I saw a great change in my care. It was another few years before I actually even got my second reptile. This was actually a gecko. And likewise with him, I wanted to make sure I did everything right. Once I was confident enough in my skills, I went to look for my third pet, which ended up being a boa named Thor. When I got Thor, he was the first one that I got that was not in 100% health, and I did not know this when I was going into it. Thor had a pretty bad case of mites. Now at this point, I'd never even dealt with mites, and I didn't totally know what to look for. So when I noticed that something was wrong, I knew exactly who to reach out to, because I made sure to source everybody before I even got this animal. Everything turned out fine. He ended up being very healthy. It went great. But this is where I really fell in love with the rescuing aspect. I knew that I wanted to toy with this, and I definitely wanted to get more into it. And it wasn't necessarily about the medical stuff, though I find that very interesting as well, but it was just the caretaking. Watching them, learning about them, seeing how they naturally act, watching what they eat, how they eat. I just found it super unique. I was actually planning on going to school for art. I do a lot of drawing, it's something I really love. However, more than art, I really love just taking care of animals. And that's when I learned about animal care. This was a program I then went to, and it seriously broadened my view of everything. They had a lot of courses in medical care as well, so on top of learning about exotics and wildlife, I also got to learn a lot of medical basics that I can apply to my keeping. It was actually while I was in school and I lived in my own place that I started my own reptile room. I met some really amazing connections that I was in school with and people that I wasn't in school with but now lived closer to since I had to move to school. This was actually where I met my mentor, who has mentored me in a variety of species, including venomous. This was also the point in time that a friend suggested I should start my TikTok, and so I was able to share the things that I was learning in school and that I was learning out of school. Once I finished that year, I had all the tools that I needed to go right into the work field. So I got a job at a reptile zoo, store, and rescue. It was 3 in 1. This job was phenomenal. Not only did I meet more people and learn more things, but I got to work with more species, and I really solidified my venomous knowledge. Not to mention, I got to work with species that I had never seen before. Right about when that job was ending, I met someone who is now my best friend, Emily. She lives across the country from me, and she was just someone who followed my TikTok. She asked to come visit me, and when she came up, she said she was heading to Florida to go meet some more reptile keepers, and she invited me with her. So I went with her, and we met so many keepers of all different varieties, types, opinions. I got to see keeping of all genres, and I got to decide what I liked the most, what I didn't like, and what I believed in and didn't. I learned so much on that trip. It was just one of those trips that really opened my eyes to what keeping could be, and what the beautiful and not so beautiful parts of it were. I of course documented all of this, my social media loved it. Hopefully they learned a bit with me. And from this, I really decided that, yeah, I wanted to create my own business with animals. And I wanted to promote the things that I think are important. For example, keeping your animals in a healthy, happy way where they can exhibit their natural behaviors and live a life that's pain-free. I also believe in a lot of conservation work, and I would really like to promote it and teach people how to help. So that's when I got talking about building my own facility. And if you have watched any of my recent videos, you know that it is on the way, and the place that I am currently is just a very temporary place while I'm waiting for it to be ready. So when I got back from a trip with Emily, I just started focusing really hard on building up me. I spent as much time learning as I could, gathering information, figuring out what I needed to do and what I didn't need to do, what was important and what wasn't. So I've kept going, and this year we did another one of our trips. We've actually done a few trips now, kind of everywhere. I went out to BC to visit Emily, met some more really amazing keepers out there, back down to Florida, and actually 12 states. I've met keepers throughout like half of the US, I swear. And each and every one of them has taught me something so valuable. At this point where I am today, I really think my keeping has just improved exponentially, and I'm seeing it in my animals. I'm seeing it in the quality of life, and what they're giving me out of them is just so much more. I hope to just keep making videos, keep educating you guys, teaching people about the importance and why we need to love all creatures, or at least respect them if we can't like them. I really think the reptile hobby is taking a wonderful turn, and I'm really proud of the steps that I did take. Though there's a few things that I definitely would have changed in my past, some places that I now know to go get information where I didn't know before that I can now suggest to people. Like, for example, I highly recommend a mentor, and that's not something I ever even knew existed when I first got into it. Knowing that there's somebody who can work with you on every single step to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing before you bring home your new pet. I mean, isn't that the goal, to be a pro before you even bring them home? There is a lot of contradicting knowledge out there, and that's why I think it's really important to find a lot of sources, especially because if you ever have something happen, like where I had mites and I had never really had much experience with them, you want to be able to go to somebody who has some expertise in that. And if you don't have very many connections, then you might have trouble finding something. So that's my number one advice for people is it's all about connection. It's all about learning. You can never stop learning, and in this hobby, it is infinite knowledge. You will never be able to keep up with it. So this has been a little introduction to who I am, how I got where I am, and where I want to go. And I'm so happy to have you guys watching this video. Your support means everything to me. It's what makes all of this possible. I really can't thank you enough. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be posting another video soon, I swear. But until then, thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.